The thing about being a footballer is this. It's supposed to guarantee you all the good things in life. The girls, the glamour, the goals, the fans chanting your name, you know the script. What you're not supposed to get is humiliated in front of 40,000 fans plus the millions watching on the box. Basically, there's loads of things that shouldn't happen to a footballer, and this is the top 30 for you to enjoy. See, I'm one of those people who love it when the lads cock it up. So let's get started with the top 30 things that shouldn't happen to a footballer, as voted for by readers of 442 magazine. We start with number 30. Scoring an own goal is a bit of a nightmare. But scoring an own goal against your local rivals, which in turn delivers them the title, now that's a special achievement. So, Brian Gale and family, look away now.
Wallace going through quickly, it's lifted back towards Cantona, and Gale didn't really know what he was doing! It's gone in, it's a bizarre goal!
I reckon this must be the worst day in Brian Gale's life, and one of the worst days in the life of anybody who knows Brian Gale. It was that bad. The significance of the match, apart from anything else, Sheffield United against Leeds, Leeds going for the title, basically a championship decider as far as they're concerned. 2 each, final few minutes of the game, and somehow Brian Gale concocts the most ludicrous own goal you've ever seen.
Well, I just don't know what Gale's thinking of there. Had the opportunity to clear it. He's cleared it to his own net.
He concocts the perfect header, looping straight over his own keeper and nestling in the far corner of the net, thus gifting Yorkshire rivals Leeds the title, ensuring his own side have been defeated, ensuring he will be hated, I would imagine, by every fan of a Sheffield United persuasion in that ground and in that city, but ensuring that he would have the keys to the city of Leeds forevermore. Brian, 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 hang your head in shame.
I hate goalkeepers. Always diving about, trying to make saves look better than they are, trying to take the credit from the real heroes, the strikers. Now in this next clip, you're going to see a goalkeeper trying to be clever, and he nearly gets away with it. But then again, he's a proper clown.
And so far, West Ham are matching. Di Canio, is he onside here? Will it count? Yes, it does count! And it's the Italian magician who creates the possibility of the cup upset of the round.
Well, this is a great confrontation between two of the great characters of the game, an Italian and a Frenchman in the Premiership, or in this case actually in the FA Cup, where Paolo Di Canio for West Ham at Old Trafford, a ground where historically they've rarely done anything, scores this most remarkable goal where Barthez comes out, feigns as if to expect an offside flag. Di Canio, who's been around the block a few times, is having none of it and plays, as you're taught to from the age of 5, for the whistle. The whistle doesn't come, he scores a goal, and Barthez looks a bit of a mug, actually. It was a great idea, it was a great intellectual battle between two of the players with the most wit in the English game at that time, and Di Canio comes out on top, and West Ham knock Manchester United out of the cup on their own patch.
Look at Barthez, looking to the referee. Well, whether he's offside or not, you have to question a keeper of Barthez standing, assuming that the referee's whistle will blow.
It was like an attempt at a professional foul there, really, wasn't it? Or sort of like a con man kind of trick in a way. A nice attempt, actually, by Barthez, who has a reputation for, imagination, and it gives his defence kittens most of the time, and that one most of all. That gave his defence cats.
This next one's of my old mate Jeff Thomas and my captain at Crystal Palace, and I know he's going to say to me, "Righty, what'd you put that one in there for?" But Jeff, I couldn't leave it out.
I remember exactly where I was when that happened. For people older than me, it's JFK being shot, things like that. But no, I remember exactly where I was when Jeff Thomas hit that wide, horribly, horribly wide.
Now this is something we haven't seen too much of lately, a free-flowing England move. Even Gary Lineker gets involved. But when Jeff Thomas goes clear, the words rabbits and headlights come to mind.
Footballers more probably than any of us thrive on adversity, so I think what France were doing there was very clever. They removed all danger from Jeff Thomas's route, and thus he just went to pieces. There was nobody there to inspire him, no obstacle to clear, and as a result he just collapsed. You know, where is a footballer without his motivation? Nowhere.
The ball was closer to the goal before he shot than after, unfortunately for Jeff, and I'm afraid it probably ended his England career, because that moment just got repeated, and it gets no better the more you see it.
What I don't understand about Jeff Thomas, I mean, okay, one thing was he was so far forward, and he's never usually that forward, but he takes the ball so early. He's about 10 yards away from the goalkeeper, and he could have easily taken it on, maybe even gone round it. He was frightened, wasn't he? He was just really, really frightened. He thought he might score a goal, but he certainly made sure he didn't.
This next one's got a tinge of sadness for me because it actually ended up finishing the goalkeeper's career. But I do believe that you have to take a positive out of every negative. So check out the engine on this dog.
And in comes that blessed dog again. John Gilchrist to Cook. That's one for Brian Gibbs to chase. There's hardly any chance here. And still that pooch was in it. What a tackle!
Must be the fastest participant in a football match ever, this dog, because the players, okay, it's back in whenever it is, they're back in the 60s, and the players aren't exactly athletes by today's standards. But the dog, if you notice from the initial breakdown of play at the one end of the pitch, the play transfers down the pitch with a long pass. And so it's, 80 yards away? The dog appears in frame about 2 seconds later. Now, either he's got on a Kawasaki out of frame and revved down the pitch, or he is absolutely off a shovel across the grass.
Anyone who's played football with a dog anywhere nearby knows it's bloody dangerous. You know, dogs take it seriously, and they don't want other people mucking around. And here we're 22 people. You've got a competitive animal out there with a set of fangs, chasing a ball down, colliding with the goalkeeper, and the commentator's like, well, what's he rolling around for? It's like he's Cristiano Ronaldo or something. That's a serious incident.
This dog, I think, must be called the Vinnie Jones dog, because not only does it get to the ball, it's a great tackle, it breaks the goalkeeper's legs. Vinnie would have been proud of that.
Well, when you see a crisp packet on a pitch, you know you're going to get a bad game because the wind blows it all over the place. Dogs on the pitch, you're never that sure about. I can remember this incident, actually, and there is a slightly serious side to it because poor Chick Brodie gets an injury there that actually effectively finished his career, I believe. It was quite serious. But growlers on the pitch are bang out of order, and the Canine Defence League or whatever, I don't care about that. There should never be a growler in a ground, let alone on a pitch, and I'm sure Chick Brodie agrees with me for one.
On a bad day, a goalkeeper might have to pick the ball out of his net 5-6 times. I've had a 9-0. It wasn't nice for our goalkeeper. But if you have to pick the ball out of your net over 30 times, maybe football ain't for you.
Well, of course, there are no easy games in international football. That's the way the saying goes. But Australia disproved that against Samoa here. 34 goals. I think the goalkeeper makes half a dozen decent saves as well. It could easily have been 40. Australia against a dog and duck, basically, isn't it?
Lots of funny things about this game, unless you're from Samoa, of course. One is the fact that as you're watching, you think, wow, they scored a lot of goals in this game, Australia. And then kind of halfway through, like about 10 minutes in, you're going, wow, but they're all in the same goal. We haven't got to half-time yet.
Archie Thompson got 13 goals, a world record, which means it sort of massages the career figures of all these players. So when you pitch up at the World Cup finals and you look at Archie Thompson on the subs bench and you see 21 caps, 24 goals, you think, crumbs, they've got the new Pele here. But in fact, half of them came against American Samoa, half of whose players didn't know the rules and the other half couldn't run.
what can you say to a team? 18-0 at half time. Don't worry, it'll turn round in the second half. We might score 19. Keep your pecker up, and we might be able to turn it round.
Probably aren't that many people who've been to American Samoa, but I have. To the airport. I was on my way to Western Samoa to do something for the Rugby World Cup a few years ago. And American Samoa, if you ask me what is special about American Samoa, it is not their football team. It's the fact when I was there was not a single phone in the airport, which is not the sort of thing you forget. No such thing as an easy game in world football. I give you American Samoa.
I have to say, it's kind of goal porn. After a bit, it's like, it just loses all impact. The goal is something very special, and whenever people talk about having more goals or bigger goals so that we can have higher scoring games, the whole point about the goal is it's a very special thing. It doesn't happen very often. When it does, it's a kind of exquisite moment of satisfaction after all the foreplay build up, blah, 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 blah. When you see this, just dun, 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 it is like kind of hardcore goal porn, and I don't like that. That's not the kind of bongo I'm into.
Laughing at other players' misfortunes and injuries is not clever. It's not big, it's not professional, it's not right. But this one is really funny. Pierre Issa was injured fair and square during a match between Watford and Birmingham. So on come the stretcher bearers, quick to the rescue. Only not this time.
He's really unlucky, doubly unlucky really, because he turns and chases a pretty innocuous ball by Birmingham down the side, and somehow manages to trip over the ball and land on the ball quite awkwardly, and that seems to cause his injury. So the 4 old boys pick him up, but they barely make it round the corner flag. And I don't know how wet the night was, but one of the stretcher bearers goes A over T, and so does Pierre. Poor Pierre ends up, if he hasn't done his right shoulder originally, he's probably done it now, because I think he falls to the other shoulder as he comes off the stretcher. I've never seen stretcher bearers lose control so badly, and of course you kind of wonder who ends up the more injured. I guess it's probably poor old Pierre, who I'm sure ended up in a double sling, if that's possible, for at least a couple of weeks.
This next one, as voted for by yourselves, is baffling. Jimmy Bullard, what are you doing?
And they're on the front foot here. Teal's cross in towards Miller. Roberts hopes it'll fall for him.
Bundle!
Who was that who vaulted in? Jimmy Bullard?
That was the original school classroom bundle. Where some kind of fat kid's down on the floor and somebody climbs on top of him and then everybody just bundles it. In the end, you don't even know who's at the bottom, but you just do it for a laugh. And actually, his aim wasn't too good because he just went straight over the top. Nearly ended up in the net.
The key background feature when explaining this is that the game took place in Wigan, where they're more used to rugby league than they are to football. And we see the formation of the scrum virtually on the goal line, and then a variation on either rugby league or football, the attempted touchdown by Jimmy Bullard, going over the huddle like a linebacker, over the line and just forgetting to take the ball with him.
The boy clearly enjoys his football and indeed any kind of physical contact. And it's the logical approach, when you see a whole load of players piling on top of each other, you just go dive over the top. If they'd been celebrating a championship-winning goal, it would have been the natural response. And, I see no reason why that kind of playground fun should be confined to kind of World Cup winning moments. Go for it, Jimmy, I say. The crowd loved it.
Well, just a bit of fun there.
Okay, let me break this down for Scottish goalkeepers. Ball, goal, goalkeeper, stop ball, in goal. You got that, Jim?
Jim Leighton keeps up the great tradition of Scottish goalkeepers, i.e. shit. The header, not that good a header. Yeah, it's headed down, that's pretty good. But he sort of goes, oh, and here comes the Wimble, and you just went...
The two central defenders both come forward. Called it well. Oh, Leighton's lost it, and it's gone in.
And Leighton will feel there that he misjudged his dive.
Generations of Scottish punters have cursed Scottish international goalkeepers because they've lost huge sums due to the immense cock-ups of the likes of Alan Rough down the years, and they've wanted just to encase them in concrete and throw them in the River Clyde. The interesting point here is that Jim Leighton's feet clearly already are encased in concrete because he can't move. He just watches the ball and gradually falls over in instalments.
Jim Leighton was, nobody knew at the time, this was the thing, it was quite serious, that he was actually an inflatable goalkeeper, and actually there'd been, I don't know whether it was a puncture, but anyway, he just kind of, as the ball comes in, which is a problem with the inflatable keepers, you don't see them around much anymore, even in Scotland. So, but that, I don't know, it's hard to pull out one moment of Scottish goalkeeping disaster and say that's the one, but I think most Scottish fans would talk about the Leighton goal.
In fairness to Jim, I think Jim's trying to read where the header's going to go, and he's in the process of diving, and the forward heads it down, and well, it's just not a good moment. But as I say, Scottish goalkeeper, not in the same sentence really.
Alan Rough, Jim Leighton, you can name so many. All crap.
I love the foreign players, especially the French, the natural arrogance, that je ne sais quoi. But this next clip, they're just taking the piss. Bobby, Thierry, zut alors. Arsenal
Get some things, what can I blame here? How can I possibly duck the blame for this? And he kind of looks at his studs and starts to kind of try and pull a bit of grass off his studs. I mean, nobody's buying that, Massimo, not even for a second.
When you watch it, it's almost like one of those magician tricks where they've got two footballs, one that he's hiding underneath, because he stops it, and then this other ball rolls out the back. So it looks like one of those fake compartments in the middle where a ball rolls out the back. I mean, I don't know how further to explain it, because he's a good keeper, and it's a weak shot, and he covers it. And how the bloody thing rolls out the other side, I have no idea. In Italy, they say, well, they never gave Taibbi that much of a chance because he made one mistake and he never got a run in the team after that, and he was a good keeper. But to be fair, that mistake is enough. That's enough for not one career, but several careers.
Now, this might sound controversial, but I think Massimo Taibbi was an okay goalkeeper. That's why Manchester United shelled out for him. He did okay in Italy before he joined, he did okay in Italy after he left. But something happened at Old Trafford. Peter Schmeichel put some sort of curse on both goalmouths. Fabian Barthez, World Cup winner. Oh, no, not at United. He didn't look anything like a World Cup winner. You had Ricardo, the Spaniard who was rarely seen and occasionally he'd have a chunter to the newspapers about it. Taibbi, arguably the worst of the lot. Bosnich never quite cut the mustard, or something like that. And something happened at Manchester United, the curse of Schmeichel. But Taibbi, I'm sure he must have had some good games. I can't recall one. I can't actually recall a save, because that's all we ever see. Le Tissier dribbling one through from 30 yards.
This next one's a bit closer to home because I was on the pitch at the time, but I could see where fans found it funny, because with time it is funny. My mate Stevie Morrow was the fall guy, literally. We just won the League Cup and Stevie Morrow had proved the unlikely hero with the winning goal. And Steve decided to jump on Tony's back, but Tony didn't want him on his back. A broken arm was not the ideal way to celebrate being a cup final hero.
You realise something had gone on from the moment Morrow fell and a crowd of players went round him, and what worse could happen is your biggest day, your biggest moment in your career, you're playing at Wembley and Tony Adams drops you over his shoulder, pretty much in some respects ended Steve Morrow's career at Arsenal because he never seemed to recover from that.
Dropped by the big donkey, to kind of paraphrase a famous TV show. And what a brutal thing for Morrow. I'm sure everyone aware that he ended up missing the FA Cup final because of that. Still, I think there was always an air of unease in his eyes when he was hoisted aloft by Tony, and probably unsolicited. I don't think he said, "Oi, Tony, pitch me on the shoulders," because you look like you're a straightforward, unwobbly sort of person, and then woo.
Actually, what struck me about that were the haircuts, really, more than anything. Those incredible afros of people like Ray Parlour, for instance. What a prat he looked. I mean, really, he'd probably come out before the game with the curlers, sort of just to get the heated rollers must have been used in those days. Obviously, I can't claim to have ever tried them. But Adams, well, was it before or after he'd been caught on the juice? I don't know, but he certainly had wobbly grip.
Ray Parlour's hair has always been unruly, but you can see we're very much kind of in the 80s, early 90s, ludicrous wonder stuff type of haircuts here, because even Paul Merson's got this nasty kind of bouffant bob. And what's also quite funny about the two of them, if you look closely, is that they're kind of looking across going, I think he's broken something there, Stephen. Ray Parlour's gently arranging his manhood while he's chatting. I think he's broken. He should probably miss the FA Cup final anyway. I think I'm fine, so bollocks to him.
0-0 for Steve Morrow, and it just shows how quickly your sporting world can change. You've come on, you've won the cup, it's the greatest moment of your life, and all of a sudden your shoulder is broken. Cheers, Tony Adams. Thank you very much indeed.
So here we are at the number one thing that should never happen to a footballer. And what can I say about this next piece? If it was a painting, it would be the Mona Lisa, a work of art. To score an own goal and nearly break your nose in the process is a beautiful thing. Chris Brass, stage is yours.
The Chris Brass own goal is probably in a 20-year career the best own goal I've seen, because not only does he try an attempted overhead kick that he gets completely wrong, he smashes the ball in his own face, he breaks his nose, but I have to say, compliment to him, he doesn't go down, he just gives the nose a bit of a rub and tries to carry on.
Defenders should never be skillful. I think that is the lesson. And anyone who tries an overhead kick inside their 6-yard box is just asking for trouble. But there is anywhere you could slice it, over your bar, off for a corner, maybe just a straight up and under, but up your own schnoz. And then afterwards, he just goes, yeah, I hurt a little bit.
I think there's something immensely gratifying about a defender suddenly thinking he's a proper footballer. And this is clearly what happened with Chris Brass, a man who for donkey's years had been paid to stop goals, thinking that there was a little bit of the Brazilian in him, even though he hails from deepest Lancashire, and trying the overhead, and for it to smack him straight between the eyes, to break his nose in the process as well. I don't like to mock the misfortune of others, but delicious.
I have to be careful what I say, because Chris Brass is a friend of mine, and I haven't seen him since this happened. I think he's gone into hiding. Just fantastic. I just want to ask him, what were you doing? What did you think was going to happen? And I love the little rub of the nose afterwards. Oh, that really hurt. Give me some sympathy, boys, please.
Own goals are horrible. And having scored a few of myself in a very minor level, everybody looks at you and you feel absolutely terrible, no matter what happens. But when you actually manage to score an own goal via your own face, hooking it into your own face and putting it into the net, that is some achievement, and that goes down as one of the top OGs of all time.
It shouldn't happen to a footballer, but thank God now and again it does. You wouldn't want them earning all that money without occasionally falling on their asses, would you? Take it easy.